Hi, I'm your host, Beth Renoff, and this is Are You Afraid of the Talk? Join me as I shine a light on the difficult conversations we keep in the dark. Follow the journeys of everyday people as they share their struggles with talking about different topics, from personal problems to societal issues. My hope is to get to the root of what holds people back from initiating these discussions and normalize these conversations by having them. So, are you afraid of the talk?
Hi, and welcome to Are You Afraid of the Talk? This is where we shine a light on the conversations we keep in the dark. And this week we have Chelsea Turner of Chelsea Turner Wellness. And say hi, Chelsea, and introduce yourself. Let us and the audience know a little bit about you and what you do, where you come from.
Yeah, hi everybody. Thanks so much. I'm so excited to be here. I am so honored that Beth asked me onto the podcast. I'm really excited to dive in and chat with her more. I am a nutritional therapy practitioner, and in my practice, I help women uncover the root cause of their symptoms so that they can take back their power and heal.
And I am lucky enough to work with Chelsea, and definitely an empowering experience. So I highly suggest anybody who's struggling or just wants better health or feels symptoms that they don't really understand,
Yeah.
check out Chelsea and go to her. She's awesome.
Oh, thank you. It's my honor to get to work with you.
Oh, thank you. I mean, we could have a love fest forever,
Yes.
but um, I love to start out with a little bit of an icebreaker. So if you could have dinner with anyone in the world, past, present, fictional, real, who would it be and why?
Yeah, so I would actually say Ina Garten.
Oh my God,
Um,
I love her.
yes, I love her. I feel like she is just like the queen, because she's fabulous. So, I mean,
Yes.
I grew up like watching her on Food
Uh-huh.
Network, with my mom, and so much of how I learned how to cook really came from her
Mm-hmm.
inspiration. I just love her and her like simplistic attitude about things.
Mm-hmm.
Love like her story with her husband, and just,
I know.
I think she just has such a beautiful life and like way about her. And
Uh-huh.
her food, of course, is
Oh my,
amazing. Her
yes.
Hamptons house, her garden, like so much inspo. Yeah, so I would love to have dinner with her.
Oh, that's awesome. And that maybe you could have, right?
Yeah,
You
yeah,
never know.
yeah, you never
It's
know.
it's really funny because my mother-in-law is her.
Oh
Like they
my
look
gosh.
alike. She's an amazing cook. She always makes her recipes and like a little twist on her recipes. So we call
Yes.
her Ina.
Oh, I love that. I love that.
So if you can't go to the real one, you can always meet my mother-in-law and have
Yes,
like the
that
fake
would
one.
be amazing.
Yeah, I mean, she's awesome. I love her. I love cooking. So I
Yeah.
often use her recipes. And I mean, I feel like that's taboo with you right now because I shouldn't be eating some of the ingredients in there. But
He does, yeah, definitely have some things in there that
yeah,
could be a little inflammatory, but we can always make swaps.
right, exactly. So I'm
Yeah.
learning to do that. But I guess tell me about something that's easy to talk about for you. And
Yes.
why is it easy?
So I think it would have to be just my work.
Mm-hmm.
I absolutely love what I do as a nutritional therapy practitioner. I could talk about nutrition and taking a root cause approach to health for days or like all day long. And I often do. And I'm sure it drives my family and friends crazy. I've definitely become known as like that person who talks
Uh-huh.
about, like some of these things that can be considered a little taboo in the world of health,
Mm-hmm.
parasites, like things like that, opening drainage pathways on the regular. But yeah, I could talk about that for days. I'm just so incredibly passionate about really educating women on the
Mm-hmm.
what and the why behind the imbalances in their body, instead of just, giving them the how or just like handing them a protocol. And that's because I really want people to, walk away from working with me really feeling empowered, like that they have the tools they need to really better understand their health so they
Mm-hmm.
can take back their own power and really become their own healers. So I just love educating and empowering people when it comes to their health.
That's amazing. And
Yeah.
what do you think makes it easy for you to talk about? Because there is a lot of criticism about it and skepticism. what for
Yeah.
you makes it like not fearful about coming out and being confident about what you know and how you can help? Like
Yeah.
why is that easy?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think, initially, I don't think it was easy. It's something
Mhm.
that, and I'm sure we'll get into that, something that I kind of had to really work through. But, I have made such strides in my own healing journey and really been through a lot of struggle. And I think, like, when I initially started, before I started my practice, before I even knew that I wanted to do this for work, I went on Instagram and I started sharing my story, which was really difficult to do. Like, it was really difficult to open up and talk about these things because they're really personal. But in doing that, it opened this like floodgate of people who I
Mhm.
realized were just in really similar situation as I was. And that just opened my eyes to see that, like, okay, I'm not the only one. I'm not alone here. There's so many people who are in the same situation, who are struggling with their health, who don't know what's going on with their symptoms, like don't know why they're having these types of symptoms, and they really need help. And so that's what really opened me up to want to share more,
Mhm.
and want to talk about these things more and just like educate and really empower and move into that way of being versus being afraid to talk about these things.
Right. And I think fear stops us from so much,
Absolutely.
opening up, trying to help people, understanding things more. Cause sometimes we're like afraid of like, what am I going to find out?
Right.
So, and I think also you saw like a reward from it. It's like you probably didn't feel as isolated, and you saw that other people were like, oh my god, thank you. There was like
Yes.
gratitude there, which is like a
Yeah.
ding 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 for the brain, and it's like, ooh, this feels good, so it's like motivating.
Exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
and that I think in itself is like empowering to me, right? And being able to help other people and being able to open up and share about something so vulnerable with myself was really like a growth opportunity for me. So,
Mhm.
yeah, absolutely.
How do you think you got yourself to be comfortable with that vulnerability?
I don't know. I feel like you have to just kind of get out there and start sharing. Like, I think that there's so much power in being able to share our stories. Like, in sharing your own story, not only are you helping yourself like work through that and heal through that, but you're helping other people on their own journey as well. And so, you know, I think I just one day just like started, and it was kind of gradual, and I just let myself feel like more comfortable with it and
Mhm.
just started opening up like a little bit more and a little bit more. So,
Mhm. And I love that because that's like what I talk about with my clients is like you have to break things down. And there
right.
probably was like a subconscious or just subconscious like
Yeah.
process of you pre-contemplating, contemplating, taking action, and you have to break things down in steps. So
Right.
something in the back of your mind or subconsciously it was like I need some sort of change. I
Mhm.
need, you know, I don't know what's going on, but something's pulling me towards this.
Right.
And it was probably feeling more comfortable with yourself. And there
Yeah.
had to have been self work on that end for you to be able to do it. So, you know,
Absolutely.
I think breaking things down and being like little by little, like you didn't need to dive in
Right.
and, immediately when you had the thought, be like, okay, I'm going to share everything because that's really scary.
Right. Yeah.
So I
Kind of.
love the partializing and like being like I'm going to take this step then this step, and sometimes it's subconscious, sometimes it's conscious, because I think once you actually were able to be vulnerable and got like the
Yeah.
reception that you got, it was like, okay, what's my next step?
Right. Like kind of that like acceptance feeling of like, okay, like I'm not weird. I'm not like this
Hmm.
person kind of, this outsider. Like this is very like there's other people like me, and really like building that sense of community and feeling that sense of community, I think really motivated me
Yeah.
more to just open up even more. And it was really healing, like I said, and just kind of getting all of that out and sharing it with people was really helpful.
Yeah, and it must be so validating to be like I'm not alone, because
Yeah.
chronic illness or any illness, can really make you feel so isolated, and
Yes.
that sparks depression and sparks anxiety. And when you
Yeah.
can like just put yourself out there a little bit, or even just go and put yourself out there to go search for other people like it,
Right.
is so healing and validating and understanding, oh my God, I'm not the only person who
Right.
experiences this,
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah.
really amazing. And, I wish we could all like kind of publish our blueprint of our
Yeah.
brain of like how we got there. But,
Yeah.
everybody's experience is different. But it sounds like yours, like, thank God, because you're helping so many
Aw.
people.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So I'm so happy that's easy to talk about. And I understand there was a point that it wasn't.
Yeah.
So, um, but now that that's easy, what for you now? Because I think we all go through different stages where things might be difficult at one time, then it's easy, it's like healing. You get to the next stage where something's
Yeah.
really difficult, right? So, what for you is difficult to talk about now?
I think, it's always been kind of hard for me and still is to talk about my life growing up. Um, I grew up in like a very chaotic type of environment, and also to talk about my health and like how growing up that way has really affected my health, affected my nervous system. Yeah, I would say like that's probably the topic.
Mm-hmm. And just for like other people, and if you feel comfortable, like what does chaotic mean?
Yeah, so growing up, my parents argued a lot, like they fought a lot. It's nothing physical, which I'm grateful for, but it was a lot of just verbal abuse, I'll say, like a lot of arguing every single day. I mean, just constant like yelling in our home. And so just very like ungrounding, very unsettling. Yeah, I would say like that's kind of the chaos
Mm-hmm.
piece of it.
And what would happen to you, if you can even remember, when you would hear that?
Yeah, I mean, I remember as a kid, like I spent a lot of time like in my room. I had a TV in my room, and so I would have that on a lot of the time because I didn't really want to like hear it and would want to kind of just like drown out the noise. I remember like I had this really cute like windowsill in my room growing up, and I would like sit there and just kind of look out. Our house was like at the bottom of a hill at a cul-de-sac, and so I would like kind of look up the street and just always like look out there and just think to myself like, one day like I'm going to be grown up and like I'm going to be able to do my own thing and like create my own life, and I'm going to be able to kind of get away from like all of this. And so that I think was kind of my escape when I was young. When I got older, when I was in middle school, high school, like I definitely think I rebelled a lot. I was never wanted to be home. I like always wanted to be at friends' houses or my boyfriend's house. Yeah, that's kind of how I remember growing up, just
Mm-hmm.
trying to like avoid that, like escape that, I guess is a good word for it.
Right. So it sounds like it put you in like a sympathetic phase
Oh, yeah.
where you were just trying to flee.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
And do you see that in your life now?
Yeah. So that's a good question. I feel like I've done a lot of work in this area, but it's still something that's definitely a struggle for me. Or I don't know if struggle is really the right word. It's more like, well, I guess I'll explain. So my whole life, I feel like looking back on it now, I have this like awareness of it. At the time, of course, I didn't.
Right.
But looking back on it now, I see that chaotic like environment that I grew up in, I think did put me into this constant state of like being in sympathetic stress response where like I'm just constantly in fight or flight, right?
Mm-hmm.
It made me like an incredible problem solver.
Mm-hmm.
So, I gained strengths from that experience, I think. But what I'm trying to say is that chaos kind of led me to seek that out in lots
Mm-hmm.
of other ways in my life. So through relationships, definitely through work experiences, probably is like number one for me, or just kind of creating like problems of my own is something that, yeah, it's vulnerable for me to say that, but that's
Thank
definitely
you.
something, yeah, that's like deep rooted in me. I will kind of like make an issue out of like nothing. And I think it's because that's very normal to
Mm-hmm.
me, and it in a way like feels safe because it's what what we've been conditioned to think is like safe when you're growing up in an environment like that. So
Absolutely.
yeah, that's probably been the biggest thing, like just seeking out really chaotic relationships, work environments. Before I started my career now working with women and launching my own business, I worked in the corporate world and I was just always trying to climb and always getting into very chaotic work
Mm-hmm.
environments. My last position was I worked in communications and PR for a large school district actually. And so it was just a ton of like constantly putting out fires, communicating all sorts of things to families, and just really being that like go-to person of like, okay, here's a problem, how do we like make this go away, or how do we like solve this for the masses, how do we communicate this, what do we do? So truly like in a crisis type of communication response, like we would get bomb threats and like gun threats,
Mm-hmm.
like all sorts of things like that. And when those things would happen, I thought that that type of work environment made me feel lit up. Like
Mm-hmm.
because I immediately was like, yes, like I'm so good at this, like I'm thriving, like let me get in there and solve this
Mm-hmm.
problem. But looking back now, it's like I see that was just so misaligned for me. That was really just what I was conditioned to believe. Like, yes, I have strengths in those areas, but it's not what I want. And it's not what
Right.
feels like in alignment for me. It's actually completely the opposite of how I feel that I truly am. So,
Right. And like constantly putting out fires, it's like it it was perfect for hypervigilance, which
yes.
is not good for your nervous system.
Mm-mm.
So,
No.
you know, and my guess is probably most people who really do well in PR really do
hmm
have something that
Oh, yeah.
contributed to that,
For sure. Yeah. It's like you're always on, right? Like you're always
Right.
on, you're always ready for a
Right.
crisis and you're able
Right.
to solve it.
Right. But I'm happy to hear that you saw that there are positives of it. You know,
Yeah,
because we
definitely.
always look at like trauma or upbringing
Right.
as only the negative, and yeah, you were able to survive, so something good came out of it. It's just
Yeah.
like, I guess the question is, when did you realize it like no longer served you?
Yeah, I feel like, really a big part of my story has to do with the beginning of the pandemic that started.
Hmm.
So I was in this job, I was trying to climb that corporate ladder, get higher up into school PR. And then the pandemic happened. And so much shifted in that time. So my job, as I knew it, as like, yes, I was working on crisis communication and all of that, but still doing a lot of just regular marketing, things like that. It completely shifted. Like my job wasn't even my job anymore. I became like, uh, I don't want to say it on here so that we don't get like screened, but like I became like pandemic like queen. Like that's all that I
Hmm.
messaged about. That's I would get hundreds of emails about it from parents and things like that, and it was just constant like stress and constant, yeah, in that sympathetic state. And so
Hmm.
we ended up working from home, transitioning into working from home. Even though we had so much going on and I was in this constant state of like trying to figure things out with work and communicate, like never been more stressed, I don't think. I had more time because I was at home and I needed an outlet outside of work hours to like do something for me.
Hmm.
So at that time is when I realized, like, you know what? I've always been really interested in nutrition. I'm doing so much work on my own healing story right now. Like, let me look into going back to school. I originally thought of it as a way to just do something for me. I didn't think of it as, or get education. Like, I didn't think of it as, oh, I'm going to do this and switch my career. I didn't think that at all.
Hmm.
So I enrolled, I started in that and just really realized, like, oh my gosh, like, this is what I love. Like, this is what really lights me up. Like, this is what I want to do. And kind of at the same time was when I had started sharing my story more online and like getting all of that positive feedback, hearing from all these people who were struggling. And it just kind of came together. And at that same time, right when I was about to graduate in the spring, um, was when we were going to be going back to the office in person. So we
Hmm.
went back. Like, I can't even tell you the stress that I felt in my whole body. Like, it's like my body was like no, like
Mm-hmm.
you can't be in this building, like you can't be in this office, you can't be working with these people. Like every sign that I could get from my body was just screaming at me, like, no, this isn't what you should be doing. And I felt such a strong energetic pull towards like, maybe I should do this as a career. Like maybe I
Mm-hmm.
should just let all of this go and just like do this. Like what would happen, you know? And my whole life, like I have always gotten in my own way. I'm a massive overthinker, I think, from being in that like chaotic environment, lots of stress. And, really my husband is the one who said it to me. And he's like, you know what, like you should just do this. Cause I was thinking about like, well, I'll stay where I'm at and maybe I'll take like a client on the side and I'll just do it for like fun and to like help people, and just kind of have that as like a side business. And he was like, no, like you're the type of person, like you've got to go all in, like you've got to like serve people and like you should just do it. And so he really pushed me forward. And that was a scary time for me. That was very scary
Mm-hmm.
to leave. But that's basically what I did. I didn't have any clients yet. I didn't have anything set up. And I just was like, you know what? I'm putting in my notice. Like I'm launching my own business. I have no idea what I'm doing. And I just did it. And
Mm-hmm.
in doing that, like it was stressful, but once I did it, it was like this weight just like lifted off of me. And I have never felt more like in my own body, like more like in alignment. And so that's probably when I knew, like, I was like, okay, like this is
Right.
what's meant for me,
Right. So, like, a few things come up for me.
Yeah.
One, when the pandemic hit, it was like everybody was almost in the place that you were your whole life. And
Yes.
then they were like dumping on you. So, it
Yes.
probably was like your body and your brain are like, this is too much of the familiar, right?
Yes.
Because really what you're seeking out, we can call it safety, but we could also just call it familiarity and
Yes.
comfortability,
Yeah.
because that's just what you're used to.
Yep.
And then, you said my body was screaming. How did you know? Because I think this is the most important thing that people ignore is when your body is telling you something and you just completely ignore it. Like, what did that look like for you? Where did you feel it? Like, how did you know it was screaming at you?
Yeah. So, I mentioned that I was kind of through this time. I mean, for years, I've been going through my own healing journey, right? And so, really, like everything kind of hit the fan for me, symptom wise, like
Mhm.
in that time. Like, gosh, like my whole body just felt like tight and pain and just like, just so much stress and like anxiety, like, um, yeah, just like so many things like that kind of shifted for me. A lot of like stomach issues and just all sorts of different chronic symptoms started popping up and becoming like much more intense for me. And I remember like driving into my office, like I'd be in the car and I'd be kind of sweaty and just like tightened up, and I could feel like I'd get to the office and feel like my shoulders were like this.
Yes.
And so it was a very like physical type of manifestation that I felt. And when I'd be home and when I'd be working on school and like connecting with people and doing this thing, like I don't know how to explain it. Like my heart just felt like open and I just felt very relaxed and like home almost is kind of like a good word, I guess, to describe it.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And I think when you can see that contrast is when you know.
Yeah.
It's like you have to try something different to
Yeah.
feel that so you know the other feeling is not the norm.
Absolutely. Yeah. And like you said in the beginning, I mean, when it comes to fear, right? Like I could have let fear get in my way. Like that's something that I really struggle with to this day is trying to not let fear get in the way and lead into trust and lead into empowerment. And I think that time is really what led me to start like trusting more and tapping into my own intuition.
Mhm.
That we talk about this a lot in sessions
Mhm.
is really like
Yeah.
leaning into your intuition and like being able to listen and tap into that. And I think in that moment that I was at in my life is really probably the first time that I started doing that.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And you talk about fear and that's so
Hmm.
broad.
Yeah.
What do you think, because it sounds like your experience from growing up created fear.
Yeah.
Can you do you know? And it's okay if you don't. Do you know
Yeah.
what that fear specifically is or what's underneath that?
Yeah, I feel like for me, it's always been a fear of the unknown, a fear of like good things coming into my life, which might sound odd, but like I have a really difficult time like celebrating things and like leaning into good things because growing up it's not like, and I want to clarify, it's not like I had this like horrible childhood, right?
Yeah,
But
yeah.
there was a lot of like, I mean, it was pretty shitty. There were like a lot
Hmm.
of things that were really difficult. And so, I think I was just always waiting for the other shoe to drop. Like, and that's how
Hmm.
I conditioned myself to be. And so that's something that's always been really hard for me.
Hmm.
And with overthinking and things like that, with the fear, like I'm always thinking like, okay, well, going back to like launching my own business. Well, okay, well, if I quit and I launch my own business, well, what if I don't get clients? Or like, well, what if
Hmm.
I don't like it? Or what if I need to go back to work? How am I going to get a job? Like, da, 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 da. And like, constantly getting in my head. So those are the type of like fear messages that I get a lot.
Hmm.
And I think really working through that and leaning into trust has been super helpful.
Right. And reframing some of those negative
Yeah,
thoughts, you know,
absolutely.
because the what if game, well, what if it worked out?
Right,
And I think
exactly.
that's where we have to be like, I don't know what's going to happen, and that's scary is because
Yeah,
I don't have control. And it all
right.
goes back to control of
Control,
like,
yes.
it's like I don't have control over this. And that is the scariest thing I think for everybody.
Yes,
I think ultimately when you really go down to the basics, that's almost everybody's trigger is like I
yes.
don't feel in control right
I cannot agree with you more. And yeah, a big part of it is control. And talking about chronic illness and things like that too, same thing. Like a huge part of that is control and really like being able to. I think that real healing can happen when we're able to realize like, oh, we don't have control.
now. Right.
And like that feels scary, but it's like we don't have control and it's okay. Like you
Hmm.
are okay. Um, we're not going to have everything figured out. Like this isn't going to go the way that we plan it to go. It's not going to match our expectations. It's going to kind of be a wild ride. And it's just about learning to like let go of that control. Like that I think is more than half the battle of, struggling with health or really anything in life, I think.
Hmm. And it's like there's no roadmap to letting go of control because
Right.
like even like your work, like it's so
Mhm.
bio individual to
Right.
how you are going to be able to because it's
Exactly.
based on how you got there,
Right.
and you said before like it's hard for good things to happen. Was that because, and I'm just guessing, I don't know, this could be totally wrong,
Yeah.
were there cycles with your parents where it was good and then they'd have a blow up, and it was, when things would
Yeah.
feel, maybe they'd argue every day, but it'd be less. And you're like, oh, things are getting better. And then they'd get worse.
Yeah. I think for me, it'd be like, I wouldn't say cycling with them, but more like cycling with just like the vibe, like in our house, I get, or
Hmm.
like what we were doing as a family type of thing. Like, like, okay, like we're going to go out as a family like for a day or like something
Hmm.
like that, and it's like, okay, cool, like, or to Disneyland, like that's a great example. So
Hmm.
like, okay, we're gonna go to Disneyland, cool, we're gonna have this good day. And it'd be like, I wouldn't really get there though in my head. Like I'd wake up as a child and be like, okay, we're going to Disneyland. It's like as a little kid you're like, you should be like, yes, like we're going to Disneyland, this is awesome, like da-da. But I'd be like, okay, we're going to Disneyland today, like, well, how's this gonna go? Is like mom gonna be like this, or is dad gonna be like this? Like how, like, do I want to get excited? Not really, because I'm kind of like helping myself
Protecting.
feel safe and being like, I'm just going to be kind of like mellow and we're just going to see how the day goes. And so that's really how I grew up a lot.
Okay. So it was like
Yes.
anticipatory, and
Yes.
that's probably most people's anxiety anyway. But I think
Yeah.
with letting the shoe drop, it's like, what's going to go wrong?
What's going to go wrong? What's going to happen? Like, what's going to change? What's going to shift? Like, what's going to take this moment that should be a feel good moment and make it a bad moment? Because I've learned that most moments are bad or scary.
Right. Did you internalize that to be like, I'm not worthy of good things?
Definitely. Yeah. I think that I definitely did that. That's definitely like a limiting belief that I really like struggle through. And I also think, you know, in internalizing that somehow, I think it became like a message of like that I'm not good enough. And so I've always had trouble with like, you know, I'm a very big like overachiever and like wanting to succeed and wanting to like do all these things. But in the back of my mind, I always have this voice of like, right, like, well, what's going to go wrong? Like what, you know, what's going to happen? And that has always held me back. So it's been a challenge, continuous challenge to really work through that versus let
Yeah.
it scare me and hold me back, you know?
Right. Well, it sounds like you're doing such a good job of tackling that fear,
Thank you.
and I think it's really hard because those aren't, again, like you don't have a roadmap for that. Like
Right.
it's like doing different things. Because, like, if you looked at yourself on paper, you're
Mm-hmm.
achieving, you are
Yeah.
successful, but you're human, and
Right.
we have to like realize that at the end of the day, like you're a human being, and there are going to be moments where our past comes up, but that doesn't mean we haven't made progress,
Right. Yeah.
and seeing how that manifests in different things, like, are you a people pleaser?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it's
For
so
sure.
interesting, like how that translates, right? It's like, how do I receive love and good things and feel safe and get my needs met? Is okay, well, if I do this, then I will feel okay because I'm making someone else happy and maybe
Right.
bad things won't happen to me, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely.
And I think even just with the, waiting for something bad to happen, you've clearly worked on that, right? So
Yeah.
it might still be present, but
Yeah.
what have you done to help face that fear head on?
Yeah, you know, I feel like just let working to like slowly let go of that control and just tell myself that like it's okay if things don't go the way that I plan them to go. Like I have just started learning that like that's life. It's not just me who feels that way. Like it's not something that's happening to me. It's like that's just how life goes. And so really learning that like how we deal with stress and how we like move through those things versus just like me getting frustrated or like, oh, this isn't working, or like, oh my gosh, like I knew this was going to go wrong, or like I knew that this wouldn't work out. It's like trying to lean more into that trust of like, I trust that, you know, this is going to work out. I trust that like what is meant to be in alignment for me is going to come into my life, like things like that. So a lot of like affirmation types of things, mindset
Mhm.
shifts like that has really helped me a lot.
That's amazing. And I think the switch of going from protection to trust is
Yeah.
really hard,
Oh yeah.
because you have to sit with the really uncomfortable
Yes.
feelings
Yes.
of, okay, like, I consciously know now that this doesn't mean it's true because I'm telling myself that, but
Right.
it feels really anxiety provoking. It feels really uncomfortable that I have to sit here now and wait to see if something bad happens because I'm going to trust myself. I'm not
Right.
going to give into the self protection because I'm afraid of rejection. I'm afraid of being disappointed.
Hmm. Yeah.
You're trusting, and then that's widening your window of tolerance.
Yeah.
And it's like taking those small steps. And did you start out with something small to trust yourself with, or was it just kind of organic, like you saw it happen?
I think it just kind of happened. I think just like over time, it's been something that I have definitely worked on. But, you know, the work that I've done, like I have done a lot of work on allowing myself to like feel my
Mm-hmm.
feelings, like you said, and really like let them be there and like work through them. You know, growing up, like I was always like a very private person. And I think that's a lot of because of how I grew up, and I felt different and I felt like embarrassed, and you know, I just didn't want to talk about a lot of that stuff, and I also was taught not to talk about feelings and like to always be very strong, and like, you know, I come from like a big Italian family, and that's definitely something that was passed down. And so I learned how to keep everything in, and you know, my feelings, emotions, what I was going through. And I really think that that's part of what led me to developing a chronic illness, was like keeping all of that in, keeping all that bottled up. storing those emotions and traumas like in organs and tissues in my body. And, I also just had a hard time connecting with people because I was so private and didn't want to like open up. And so I think just starting to slowly like learn how to feel my emotions and like it's okay to like feel these things. It's normal. Like you should feel your emotions. We don't have to bottle them up inside. Like that was really huge and probably how I started just kind of getting more like into my body and like into myself and like who I am. Because I think a lot of that, like pushing all that down is like something that is learned of like, okay, well, I'm being told that I can't share, that I can't cry or like whatever, I have to be strong. And so it's like learning how to just be, I
Right.
guess is the
Well,
best way to say it.
yeah, well, there's like two processes. It's unlearning what you
Yes.
were taught,
Yes.
and that's so hard because it's like how many years were you processing and
Yeah.
internalizing that as correct behavior and what you should do,
Mm-hmm.
and then relearning a different way that and whatever feels good for you, right?
Mm-hmm.
And is tolerable
Yeah.
and doing it in your own way, which is unbelievable to ever be at the point where you can do that, right?
Yeah.
And it's okay if you're not there yet, like you can get there. And I think especially like just changing, because did you numb your emotions or you just completely avoided?
I think I definitely like numbed them. Yeah. And
In what
avoidance there too.
in what way did you numb?
I think I like I said, I was rebellious a lot. So like I
Hmm.
would just I wasn't present in school. I like was very much into like my friends and boyfriends and like I sought out love, I think. And so relationships have always been like hard for me. I think I have always felt like I've needed to be in one, which I realized in college and kind of gave myself a break from that. But
That's
that
amazing.
and yeah, like with alcohol, I mean, I definitely started drinking alcohol at a really young age. I think that numbed a lot and just helped me feel like I was in a different place. But when I stopped really drinking like that, it was scary because it puts you more, when you're used to doing that, it puts you more like in your own body, right?
Yeah.
Um, and so I definitely had to work through that and feel safe in like doing that, like feel safe in being myself and like not having that as like a crutch, like I'll say. So those are
And
probably the main ways.
how did you come to do that? Because that's so hard.
I feel like, I just made a choice one day. I think that everything comes down to like making a choice. Like that's something that I have learned. Like we all have a choice in how we live our life and like how we want to embody ourselves and like what we want to be. And so one day I was just like, you know what? Like this isn't serving me. Like let me just try to like not do this and just go cold turkey. That's very much how I like. I'm very all or nothing
Me too.
type of person. So I'm like, I'm just gonna stop. And it was really hard, but like
Sure.
it felt amazing. I mean, it helped me get back into like who I was and like relearn, I guess, like who I was.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Was it a moment that you like felt like you hit rock bottom, or did something spark it or trigger it?
I guess like thinking back, like just with what I struggled with chronic illness, that would probably be like the rock bottom moment.
Mhm.
Um, I've had like times in my life of just being so unwell that
Mhm.
it's like I was forced to take action in my lifestyle and my diet. And honestly, I'm grateful for those moments because I definitely wouldn't be where I'm at today if it weren't for those moments. And so, yeah, I think that had a lot to do with it.
That's like unbelievable. And one thing I love that you said is that you made a choice.
Hmm.
Because I think people feel really stuck in their circumstances and
Yeah.
it's so easy. And I think you have to be in a victim stage at some
Yes.
point,
I
and
totally agree.
we talked about this.
Yes.
It's like it's okay. Like it's
Yeah.
not a bad thing, but it's never going to propel you forward. So,
Right.
and what I work on with my clients is understanding you have choices. You are making conscious choices sometimes when you feel like you're being forced to do something.
Right.
You
Yeah.
know?
And a big part of that too is like I didn't do this work alone, like I had to open up and I had to get uncomfortable and get vulnerable and like find that source of community. I had to seek out help, and I hired practitioners and coaches and like to teach me really how to come back into balance, like how to help my body heal, how to learn about the nervous system, and like how to work through these things, because I think it's really difficult to try to do that work on your own. I think it's like so powerful to have someone guiding you. And I think the main reason why is because like when you're working with someone, like they create that like safe space for you. It's really hard to create that like on your own. So that definitely was transformational for me.
Absolutely. And like you cannot do that on your own.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sorry. It's, and I love what you said is like they guide you. And
Yes.
I even say that to my clients, like first meeting, I'm not the expert. You're the expert
Right.
on your life.
Yes.
Like no one else is an expert on your life but you. And
Exactly.
people come in to help you. And I think that's why we clicked, because you
Yeah.
weren't like, here's what you need to do. Here's like, let me tell you about your body. You're like, give me information. How
Right.
can I help you? And that is
Exactly.
so refreshing. And it doesn't have to just be in the physical health world, it can
Right.
be emotional health, it can be spirituality. Is
Yeah.
someone helping guide you, but ultimately you're leading the train.
Absolutely. Like I always say that to my clients before we start working together, because I want them to know like you need to be fully committed and really like you're in charge. I'm here as a guide. I'm here to
Hmm.
guide you. I'm not your healer.
Right.
You are your greatest healer, and that's really the message that I want women to feel when we're working together, is like giving you back that empowerment and teaching you how to step into that, because it's not something that you just wake up one day and you're just like,
Right.
okay.
And what I loved about you is like you did it for yourself,
Yeah.
and that's so amazing and it's so inspiring. It gives people
Thank
hope,
you.
and you want someone who's been through it and worked on themselves, and
Yeah.
they led their own train so they could meet you to help
Yeah.
guide you,
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I maybe we just covered this, but like now I know this was a really vulnerable and hard thing to talk about, so I so appreciate you opening up,
Yeah.
because I think it's going to do the same thing as like help someone else not to feel so alone. Because I don't think it's uncommon that people have grown up in this. It's
Yeah.
just you feel so isolated, especially as a child, because you see TV, the perfect family. You just see
Yeah.
like the outside of like going to friends' houses, and maybe you think
Yes.
their
That was
houses
huge.
or their families are normal, and then you don't realize the toll it takes on your body internalizing this because you did the best you could as a child,
Right. Yeah.
and at some point you must have went back and let your like younger self know like it's okay you were there, it's okay,
Yeah.
this is how you coped, and
Yeah.
it gets better,
Yeah.
so
Yeah. That's
and
been a big
and
part of it. Like that, giving
right,
yourself self-compassion,
right,
for those moments.
absolutely. So now, having expressed that and having an outlet for that here, do you think there's a benefit now to have shared that, even though it's really hard?
Yeah, I mean, it feels good. It definitely feels like that kind of weight lifted off. Definitely
Hmm.
feels like a safe space to chat about with you. So,
Hmm.
and I, love just being able to help someone else with my story. That's just so important to me in all things. And, I really encourage people to open up and like share your story and let these things out, because, like I said earlier, like you're helping yourself heal in doing that, but you're also helping other people who are listening and who are watching you.
Absolutely. And also, like, just doing something that helps others gives you a greater purpose in life.
Yeah, definitely.
Um, so I love to end on like a little advice note, even though you just
Yeah.
gave like a ton of it. Um, uh, from your lived experience, what is a piece of advice that you would either give your younger self or a listener out there that has really been helpful to you?
Yeah, so I feel like the main thing that I've learned over the years is that like if it weren't for my struggles, I wouldn't have found my strengths. And if I hadn't experienced those challenges and like worked through them, then I wouldn't be living the life that I live now. I wouldn't have created and embodied this life for myself. I wouldn't be helping other women do the same thing. And so, I believe that our struggles lead us to our strengths.
Wholeheartedly agree. And you are one of the people who has like really helped me to see that.
Aw.
And like I think I said this like last week. I was like, I'm so grateful for what I went through because I would never be where I am today. And watching your own progress, like I know hindsight is obviously
Yeah.
2020, but and it wasn't fun. And I don't think it was fun for you to go through
Yeah.
any of that. But you're in a place where you've healed a lot,
Right.
and I don't think we're ever really done healing, but
Right. Yes.
I think you've healed a massive amount. You've lifted weight off of you that was prohibiting you from living an authentic
Yeah.
life, from
Exactly.
helping other people and like finding your purpose. And I agree. That would be my advice too is, really be grateful almost for what you have to go through because if you work on it, it's going
Yeah.
to lead you to a really amazing place and
Yes.
you're going to grow from it. And we both are, I mean, you're probably farther along, but, I think we can both say we're examples of the work in progress
Yes.
and really owning ourselves and owning our stories and seeing the light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that.
And thank you so much. This was such an awesome conversation.
Yes.
I'm so sorry you had to go through that as a child, but it you turned into a fantastic woman and you're helping so many other women
Aw.
really feel whole again. And I don't think there's any amount of money in the world that you deserve because it
Aw.
would be too much, and
Thank
it's
you.
such a gift you are giving to other people. That's a gift that you have and that's rare. So you should feel really special and proud of
Aw.
yourself.
Thank
And
you.
I feel honored to know you and work with you. And
I
really, thank you so much again for coming on.
Of course. Thank you for having me. I so appreciate everything that you said, and that means so much to me. And yeah, I'm so glad you came into my life, and I
Yeah,
I
ditto.
love being able to work with you and
Aw,
support you, and love being able to be here and share.
thank you. And that was a great conversation, and we'll have another one in the coming weeks. So stay tuned, and thanks for listening to Are You Afraid of the Talk? Bye.